A lot, you're right. All right, we are doing Property of Sounds, page 42 in your science book. If you do not have the book yet, it will be, I will put the handout in there, but we gotta get you a book, okay, if you're not gonna be back this week, okay? I think most of you have got it already, but one or two of you are missing them. All right, talk about, suppose you and a friend, Leo has been trimming that pencil for 10 minutes.
It kept breaking.
It cannot possibly be any pencil left.
This one keep breaking.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a good. This
Okay.
one keep
All right.
breaking, Leo.
Hey, you do what you do, right? Suppose that you and a friend are talking on a sidewalk and a noisy truck pulls up next to you and stops. It leaves its motor running. So what would you do? Okay, so you got a couple of three options here. You can either talk really loud, trying to talk over it. You can lean over and get right inside somebody's ear and start talking really loud, which they're not going to appreciate. Or, okay, this is where that critical thinking and logic comes in. You walk down the street from the truck so you're not right there at the noise. I know. Okay? It's not as much fun, but anyway. Loudness is an important property of sound. Okay? Loudness describes your perception of the energy of a sound. In other words, loudness describes what you hear. Okay? You probably already know a lot about loudness. For example, you know that your voice is much louder when you shout than when you speak softly. The closer you try it every day. The closer you are to a sound, the louder it is. Okay? Also, a whisper in your ear can be just as loud as a shout from a block away. So, in other words, if I whispered something in Macy's ear, okay,
It spreads COVID.
it's not, she's, would you be quiet? Okay, it's going to be just as loud to her as if she was a block away and I was shouting. Okay? Because it's all perception. Okay, if I bang on this desk up here really loud, Brianna is going to hear it. It's going to seem louder to her than it would to Spears in the back, who is going to be louder to him than it would to someone in the room next door. Okay? Because it's all perception and how close you are to the actual sound. Okay? Energy of the sound source. In general, the greater the energy used to make a sound, the louder the sound. Makes sense, right? If you did that, and we're going to do the discovery thing where we'll do the rubber band. I might even bring in a little ukulele and a couple of things tomorrow that we can kind of mess with. Okay, well, I will mess with some of you. I don't want touching my ukulele. Good Lord, I'll never get it back. Some of you think you're at some rock concert, you'll be slammed into the walls and stuff, you know. So. All right. All right. The more energy you use to pull back a guitar string back, the louder the sound when you let that string go. Okay? And this happens because the more energy you use to pull that string, the greater the amplitude of the string's vibration. Okay? So a string vibrating with a large amplitude produces a sound wave with a larger amplitude. Okay, makes sense. Recall that the greater the amplitude of a wave, the more energy that wave has. So the larger the amplitude of the sound wave, the more energy it has, and the louder it sounds. Makes sense. Okay. If your friend is speaking in a normal voice and you lean in closer, your friend's voice seems louder. Okay. Loudness increases the closer you are to the source of the sound. Again, makes sense. Yeah. Imagine ripples spreading out in circle. Okay, I'm sure most of you have done this. You've taken like a pebble and you've thrown it out into the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see the ripples and it starts off pretty big, but as it spreads out, they get weaker. Okay, because they're getting further away from the source that caused the ripple. Okay, same thing with sounds. As you get further away from whatever is creating the sound, the fainter the sound will be.
Isn't
Isn't it also that the ripple gets bigger, which means it has to spread out? more?
It's just spreading out. It's spreading out, which means it's getting weaker. Okay? Okay? Imagine a ripple spreading out in a circle after you toss the feather into the pond. In a simpler way, sound wave spreads out from its source. Close to the sound source, the sound waves covers a small area. Okay? The total energy of a wave, however, stays the same whether it's close to the source or far away from it. Okay? Therefore, the closer the sound wave is to its source, the more energy it has in a given area. Now, we're talking about intensity, okay? The amount of energy a sound wave carries per second through a unit area is its intensity. Okay? You see that bold print right there in your book. So a sound wave is a greater intensity sound, sounds louder. If you move away from that sound source, loudness decreases because the intensity decreases. Okay? And it shows you there a picture on the bottom of 43. You know, at 1 meter, you know, you hear it, but then at 2 meters, the ear hears a sound with about 1/4 of the intensity that it would at 1 meter. At 3 meters, it actually hears it, the intensity has decreased to about 1/9 of the intensity if you're at 1 meter. So you see how quickly the intensity goes down. Okay? All right. The loudness of different sounds is comparing using a unit called the decibel. Okay? The loudness of a sound you can barely hear is about 0 decibels. Okay? The loudness, well, then about each 10 decimal increases in loudness represents tenfold. It shows you in a chart over there, kind of help you understand it. Rustling leaves is about 10 decibels. Okay? A whisper is between 15 and 20. Normal conversation is about 40 to 50. Okay? Heavy street traffic gets up to about 60 or 70. Loud music is 90 to 100. And then you go to a concert, and it's about 110 to 120 decibels. A jet plane taking off is about 120 to 160. Lawnmowers will run up somewhere around 120, if I'm not mistaken. That's why the guys you see that does, they take care of lawns professionally. You know, they might put in 8 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, mowing yards and running weed eaters and all that. They all have their headphones on, and that just protects their ears, because being exposed to that kind of noise over a prolonged period of time will mess up your hearing. I used to come off the rifle range, and I could not hear anything out of my right ear for 2 days. Because you fire 100 some rounds from an M16 right there, you can't hear out of that ear for a while. Okay, no, you did not wear, back in my days, you did not wear.
Don't you do now?
You do now, but back in those days, you did not.
It was just like.
They gave you little spongy earplugs, but you couldn't hear the command from the tower, so you would pull it out so you could hear. Yeah, not smart, but, so I'm sure it did damage in there somewhere long term. Anyhow, pitch is another property of sound. You guys have heard of this before, okay? Pitch is how you describe someone's voice as either high pitch or low pitch. The pitch of a sound is the description of high or low, or how high the low or low the sound seems to a person. Okay, that's the pitch. You have some of these singers can hit such a high pitch. You probably have seen this before. They can hit such a high pitch that they can actually break a glass.
What?
A trained singer that I mean, they can hit such a high pitch, the vibration is so intense that it will actually break a glass.
I want to see
Okay?
that.
I'll see if I can find us a video of it, because it is quite interesting to
Because
watch.
imagine like you're a robber trying to get something and it's inside bulletproof glass, and then you just have like that one like.
If you have that kind of talent, you don't need to be out robbing places. So it's all right. Now, sound waves with a high frequency have a high pitch. Makes sense. High frequency, high pitch. If it has a low frequency, it has a low pitch. Okay? Frequency is measured in hertz. For example, the frequency of a 50 hertz means that it's 50 vibrations per second. Okay? And you look down here at the picture of the two singers, you got a bass singer can produce frequency lower than 80 hertz. That's that guy that gets way down. Okay? A trained soprano can produce frequency higher than 1,000 hertz. That's 1,000 vibrations. Okay?
Per second.
Yeah, but did y'all hear the part?
Okay? So that's the ones that can break glass and stuff like that. Okay? Most people can hear sounds with frequency between 20 hertz and about 20,000 hertz. Okay? Sound waves with frequency above the normal human range of hearing are called ultrasounds. Okay? Ultra meaning beyond. So you can't hear beyond that. We can't. Dog whistles. If you ever seen one of those, you blow that dog whistle and you can't hear it, but your dog is driving him absolutely insane because he can pick up on that really high frequency that we can't hear.
You can't hear.
Okay? That is why, not a dog whistle,
What is it?
that is why a lot of times your dog will go crazy. It will know someone is pulling up into your driveway before you hear it because it hears it. Okay, it's got a lot better hearing than we do. Okay, they can hear the higher frequencies. Okay,
Where can you buy dog whistles?
probably at some pet store, I would imagine. Sounds with frequency below human range are called infrasound. Okay, infra meaning below. So people cannot hear either ultrasound or infrasound. Think about light waves, and we've talked about that a little bit, we're going to talk about it more later on. There's that whole light spectrum, and we can only see a very small part of it. It sounds the same way. There's only a very small part that our ears will pick up. Okay? Pitch is an important property of music because music usually uses specific pitches called notes. To sing or to play musical instruments, you have to change that pitch, okay? When you sing, you change pitch by using your vocal cords. And of course, your vocal cords is located in your voice box or your larynx. When you speak or sing, air from your lungs is forced up the trachea or windpipe. Air then rushes past your vocal cords, making them vibrate. And this produces sound waves. Your vocal cords are able to vibrate more than 1,000 times per second. Okay? To sing different notes, you use different muscles in your throat to stretch and relax your vocal cords. When your vocal cords stretch, they vibrate more quickly. If you're a singer, they talk about, a singer they warm up their voice the same way a baseball pitcher warms up his arm. He doesn't just go out and start trying to throw 100 miles an hour. He starts off very slowly, just tossing the ball at a short distance and works his way back. Okay? A singer does the same thing. They don't just go out and start singing. They actually warm up their voice and all. Okay? Which could explain why I can't sing. I never warmed up properly. That must be it. It must be it. That's nothing to do with the fact I can't carry a tune. Okay. All right. To sing different notes, you use again. You have to use the muscles and they relax. When your voice cords relax, lower frequency sound waves with lower pitches are produced. Okay. Playing a guitar is the same way. Okay. You tighten or loosen a string. The amount of pressure you put on it as you're cording the guitar, all that changes the pitch, okay? Now with the Doppler effect, you'll hear that thrown out a lot of time, we're talking about weather and all that, weather station, you know, they have the Doppler radar and all that stuff. Kind of the same thing. What happened, the Doppler effect is, how many of you ever been sitting in a car with your parents and you hear the siren coming off in a distance? And everybody starts looking because they want to make sure that they can get out of the way of the ambulance or a fire truck or something. And as it gets closer, what happens?
You hear it
You hear it
more.
better. And if it actually goes right by where you're sitting, then as it's right in front of you, that's when it's at its loudest. But what happens after it passes?
Starts to fade
It
out.
starts to fade out. That's the Doppler's effect. That's a Doppler effect. Okay? If you were standing on a sidewalk and you could hear a car coming, okay, it gets louder, gets louder, gets louder, gets louder. It's right in front of you. It's the loudest it's going to be. And now it starts to decrease in loudness, right?
Doppler effect.
That's the
sounds like
Doppler
the
effect. You
Carbonara.
hear it coming, it gets louder as it's right in front of you, then the noise starts to go away. It fades away. That's the Doppler's effect in a nutshell, okay?
So just remember
So
that
when sound source moves, the frequency of the wave changes because the motion of the source adds to the motion of the wave. Now, what causes a shock wave? Okay? At a high speed, the Doppler effect can be spectacular. Okay, you look at the picture of the jet plane up there. When the plane travels almost as fast as the speed of sound, the sound wave actually starts to pile up in the front of the plane. And this pile up is the sound barrier. And as the plane flies faster than the speed of sound, it moves through that barrier. And then a shock wave forms as the sound wave overlaps. And the shock wave releases this huge amount of energy, and you can actually hear it. It's a big boom in the sky. And people nearby will hear that loud noise called a sonic boom. And the shock wave then passes by them. Okay? You see that plane coming out, it looks like it's coming out of a portal or something. It looks like something out of a science fiction movie. It actually does that. And what that is that just a fine condensation of white mist as that plane breaks the sound barrier. But it does look like he's coming out of a time warp or something almost. Kind of weird.
You think it'd be fun to
So it's pretty cool. Okay. All right. Hope you enjoyed a little bit of that, and you'll find your homework questions, of course, and this tape, which you know the drill.